Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Concordia University's fourth space, and thank you for joining us for today's event. Tomorrow is now. How do we deal with digitization of our environment? Now, to help situate you, we are streaming to YouTube, live from fourth space, and we are located here on unceded Indigenous lands in Tiohtià:ke, Montreal. Here at Fourth Space, we work with our university community to mobilize knowledge by co-creating daily activities, events, and actions happening across the university. We are running this event also as a live stream Zoom meeting, so anyone joining us there, if you have any comments or questions, pop those into the chat. And those of you here in the space also, if you have any questions, just raise your hand. We'll bring a microphone over to you. With that, it's now my pleasure to hand it over to student business management and also an active member of the Innovation Lab here at Concordia, Arthur Loubaresse. Arthur, great to have you.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys for being here. So yeah, I'm part of the Innovation Lab. So Natalie will tell you more about it, but that lets us innovate in many different fields. Myself in VR. So we have Jean-Nicolas Vandelac, who's also working in VR, and Jean-Luc Pellerin in Web3. So that will be very interesting. Natalie, if you want to have one word, I'll let you speak.
Sure. Thank you, Arthur. I'm pleased to be here. As Arthur said, my name is Natalie Duponcel, and I'm the coordinator of the Innovation Lab. And I'm here representing Anne-Louise Davidson, who's the director of the Innovation Lab. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here today, but she always wants to support her students, and so do I as the coordinator. So we just wanted to give you a very, very brief description of what the Innovation Lab is, in case there are any students who are listening who might be interested in participating, because as you will see with the demonstration of Arthur's project today and what he's doing, there's quite a lot that can come out of an experience learning the innovation process, gaining confidence in the innovation process, and then empowering students to be able to do this kind of thing. So basically, just to give you a very brief description, the aim of the Innovation Lab is to help students build their confidence and their competencies in the innovation process. And we do this in two ways. So each semester, we offer students who are newer to the innovation process, who've maybe never participated in it before, a 10-week program that brings them through the process with the guidance of our team, as well as with community and industry partners. And then for the students who are a little bit more familiar with the innovation process, we offer a sandbox experience, which gives them the opportunity to bring projects to a more concrete level, as you will see today with Arthur's project, which basically epitomizes what students can do when they become empowered through the innovation process. So basically, the Innovation Lab is a unique opportunity for students to put into practice what they're learning in their studies, and to do it in a multidisciplinary environment where they basically get to work with students from all four faculties, which is typically a rare experience at the university level, unfortunately. And as I mentioned before, we're actually currently recruiting students for the Winter 2025 challenges. So if there is anybody listening, we encourage you to check us out on the Innovation Lab page of the Concordia website, or you can look us up on Instagram at cu_innovation_lab. And just to let you know, though, that the deadline is January 19th, so check it out soon. And also for anybody who maybe is listening from a company or a community organization who might be interested in perhaps partnering with us for a project, we would absolutely welcome to hear from you. You can always reach us at innovation.lab@concordia.ca. I think we can put those in the chat so that you can look that up. But we would be happy to talk with anybody who's interested in a project. The more partners, the more variety of topics we have, the more students we're going to attract, and the more success we can have as the Innovation Lab. So anyway, I don't want to take too much time because this is Arthur's thing. So I'll hand it back to you, Arthur, and hopefully we can hear from somebody for the Innovation Lab. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Natalie. So I kind of want to go with like different subjects, like the accessibility, digital inclusion, and how like your project kind of fit into these areas, decentralization, the economic growth overall, social interactions, community building. I see you're very much into it, and sustainability, kind of like approach this part as well. Jean-Nicolas, you're really into virtual reality and how to like redefine the virtual like traveling, and plus you add some kind of social aspect to it, which I think is very interesting, very different from many VR experiences, because I feel like VR is mostly like alone, kind of, at least that's the image that people have. And you, Jean-Luc, you're into an agency that's more specialized into empowering businesses to navigate the world of Web3. So you're using decentralization with e-commerce. So that's something as well very different from what we're used to see. So maybe Jean-Nicolas, you can explain us exactly what your company Hoppin is doing.
Yes, thank you, Arthur. So yes, our company Hoppin World is a platform where actually companies can benefit from all the new aspects of VR with 360 video for sales, marketing, activations, sometimes training, onboarding employees, without all the hassle of going through a lot of new things they don't know about. So we took a lot of the needs from the industry, put them together, and now we're helping a lot of organizations use that powerful medium for them.
Okay, interesting. And can you explain us exactly what is the purpose of advising companies and helping companies to use Web3 to their system?
Yes, so at the Dunes Agency, it's an agency that I started with a partner of mine going on 2 years now. We specialize in helping startups and younger companies go from 0 to 1. So all the needs that they may have, be it branding, building their first website, helping build their MVP for their first idea, and basically trying to do what the Innovation Lab is doing here, but for all sorts of clients, and specifically specializing in Web3 and newer technologies, helping companies with all their AI needs as well, and helping with finding resources like talent, finding investors, and yeah.
Okay, and how is like Web3 kind of e-commerce different from like basic e-commerce? What does like decentralization bring to a small business?
So many different things. How much time do we have? So in general, e-commerce and decentralization, to be honest, I haven't seen a whole lot of applications with e-commerce specifically.
Okay.
Most of the applications that we've seen come out with decentralization is mostly in the financial space.
Okay.
So for financial transactions, decentralization of finance in general, and then also to have access to worldwide infrastructure through DePIN networks. So for those who aren't familiar with the term DePIN, it means decentralized physical infrastructure networks.
Okay.
So I also represent a client called Swancloud. They're one of the largest DePIN networks on Ethereum. So I know I'm saying a lot of words that maybe some of you have never heard before. But basically a DePIN network is a network of physical infrastructure around the world. So specifically Swancloud, they are a network of GPUs, CPUs to be able to put forward computation and cloud storage in a decentralized manner to sort of compete with the Amazons and the Googles and the Microsofts of the world. And by being able to do that in a decentralized manner, you have access to way more infrastructure and at a fraction of the cost to centralized companies.
Okay. And yeah, I heard like a lot of like technical words, etc. What basically kind of prevent companies to currently adopt Web3 technologies? Because I see it's still a new field, and I guess you struggle with not convincing, but kind of like making understand the use of Web3, etc. Do you think is actually the vocabulary that is already a first kind of barrier of entry for businesses?
So it depends on a lot of the applications. So in general, for a business wanting to adopt a new technology or a new way of doing things, there's always resistance to change. Unless it hits you in the face or you absolutely have to change because of a certain new regulation or a new threat in your business environment or a new risk that you hadn't foreseen and you need to change immediately. The vocabulary or the technicalities or the hardness of having to switch to this new technology is not going to be of concern, because you need to switch to this new technology right now. So when you're not forced to necessarily do it or do the switch, you don't necessarily have that anxiety to go for it. And then for those who do want to go forward, yes, there is the fact that it can be technically challenging. Starting to mess around with smart contracts is not necessarily the same languages as traditional developers are used to playing around with. And then it's finding, once you do want to implement this into your company, it's finding the people that can actually do that for you. There's not a whole lot of agencies like mine around the world. There's a handful in Canada. A bit more when you include the US and all of that. It can be a bit pricey also to switch towards these technologies depending on what you want to do with them. And it also has to make sense for your business. I mean, if I'm running a restaurant, I'm not necessarily going to implement a Web3 strategy because it might not make sense. But if I'm running a multinational company and logistics is complete chaos for us, and we can implement a blockchain ecosystem that helps us immensely with logistics and reducing costs and increasing accountability and visibility and awareness, then yeah, it definitely makes sense. And we'll put the resources to good use in order to do that. So it depends on the type of business you're running, depends on a bunch of different factors.
Okay, interesting. And it's kind of like the same, similar question for Hoppin is like, what kind of gap in the market did you identify, and like how do you address it with Hoppin? Is there a specific application that you thought like it doesn't exist and it should exist? Like there's this kind of demand that you spotted.
Yeah. So often a business starts with your own needs. They say scratch your own itch. Mine was for bands that were not coming all the way up to Montreal. They were stopping in New York or going to Toronto. And I thought it was, me and some of my friends, we thought it was a shame that we couldn't go see them. And so these were the first thoughts we had on, hey, we should be able to meet from anywhere we are and go see shows. Even if I'm at the country house with the family and I can't leave, even if they come to Montreal, we should be able to go see shows. And also talking about the family, when you bring them to travel, often what you've seen on small pictures and small videos is not at all what you're seeing when you arrive there. So I thought there should be a better way to feel and discover where you're bringing your family, or actually discover places you didn't think of, and you can bring them there. So that was the personal touch behind it. And professionally, well, I've been working in the in-flight entertainment industry for 10 years, a little while back before Hoppin. And in that industry, I had to look at everything that could help airlines themselves, their employees, but also travelers. So that also sparked some ideas. But then when we started the project, we did market analysis, and the first thing we noticed was that people who were interested in VR, back then it was 2018, so it was not the Oculus 3, it was like the MetaQuest 3. Yeah. But still, those that wanted to use VR, they didn't like the isolation. They didn't want to do it alone. And also, they wanted more, like the general public, they're not all hardcore gamers. They don't all want to play intensive games that you can have in VR. It's very fun for a lot of people, but not for all of them. So a lot of them wanted just, video content or content they could discover together. So that was the first thing we noticed. And then starting to dig a bit more with the companies, because it needs to fill a gap, like you're saying. We had the chance to meet with MT Lab, so the accelerator in culture, tourism, and entertainment. It's right around here. We had a chance to meet with them, and when they saw where we were going, they understood that it would be helpful for a lot of companies, especially in their area, culture, tourism, entertainment, to have people discover what they have to offer, because you can't bring your destination to a trade show like you do at, I'm just back from CES and there were lots of gadgets, but you can't bring like that or some other offers. So we realized that all those organizations, when they were trying VR, they thought it was very powerful to showcase their offer, but they didn't know how to do it, or the costs were prohibitive because they had to go to an agency, say, hey, I want an app built, and then they plan an app for them, and then they're going to develop something. But what we realized was that all the companies had the same need. It was to be able to upload content, a bit like you do on social media, but immersive content, then be able to manage it, make sure that your brand is up front, and so we worked on this. And the third gap, because it was we implemented a bridge between those. The third gap was with content producers in VR. We noticed that a lot of them didn't know where to distribute content they were producing for their clients. They were just creating an app or just putting it in the headset, and they had to go away with that headset. That's the headset with the content, and that didn't make sense either. So by building the platform, and that's what I had been doing for 25 years. So I applied that knowledge to that specific area, bridging the gap between the audience, the brands, and the content creators.
Okay, makes sense. And so the big difference, I guess, with like 360 YouTube videos that exist currently, or like for the VR users, basically, you can just access YouTube videos and have some kind of 360 environments. The big difference with Hoppin is that there is this social kind of interaction within your environment that makes it like you're not just visiting something alone, you're actually like sharing an experience with friends or other people.
Yeah, that's one of the differences. The videos are basically the same. I mean, it's 360 videos, so but the difference is really in the usage, the way that companies use the platform. Yeah. So, and I put an emphasis on it because it's mainly B2B to start with.
Okay.
Because when you want to bring people in content, you want to bring people in your content, not in everything that's available on YouTube. So that's one of the first things. They can curate what content their clients or the new employees that they're onboarding. They need to curate that content. Second, they want to make sure that their brand is highlighted so that they have control over that. And third, if you're on YouTube, first they introduced social viewing, then they removed it. Now they reintroduced it back, but to be able to do social viewing, you need to be friends with that person on Facebook, so or on Meta, on your headset. So it's not very practical when you want to invite clients that you say, hey, you want to be my Meta friend? So we also solved that and a couple of other problems with the general viewing platforms. So it's more like you would connect into a video conference. So I give you my ID for the room with my content, and then even if we're at a trade show, that works. Or if we're remotely, also you can join me inside the content, and I can show you either the destination or the offer that we're building, or the company, or something that's not practical to carry around.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. There is a video that maybe we can play of just so that we can picture exactly what Hoppin is.
That's a very old video, but
it is, but it's kind of like
it shows a bit what it is.
Yeah, it shows more or less like we're just watching like 20 seconds,
all right,
just to understand the concept. So yeah, that was like the beta. So I guess now it's very much more evolved, but kind of showcases.
Yeah, that was the first interface, but the principles were there. We built, was in the prototype where you could meet with people, interact in content, curate the content. There's also a call to action. So if you want to, if there's something you like, you can send yourself the link and information to your email, so that when you're out of VR, you have access to all the destinations that you selected. Yeah, just like that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And yeah, and I was wondering, like, is is your focus to make the experience as authentic as possible, like when you want the user to feel there, or is it like, do you assume the kind of virtual aspect to it? You know what I mean?
Yes, we want them to feel there, but there's a nuance in that our clients don't want us to replace travel, and it's part of our mission as well. We don't want people to live in headsets all day long and say, hey, well, I can stay in my living room and meet with my friends. A lot of kids are already staying on their phone or staying on their computer and meeting with their friends. That's okay, but there's sort of a limit to a healthy limit that should exist. So the way we built it was more for a teaser. So you will be teased about the destination. We won't give it all to you. Well, it's always the client who decides, but we usually, when we discuss with them, instead of having you fly, like jumping off, they'll want you to see someone jumping off. So you're still at the top. You still see what it will feel like, but it can help you say, well, I want to go do that with the people I'm watching it with, or no, that's not for me. So it's more on a, but yes, we want, and usually that's what happens. People, when they're inside the experiences, when they remove their headset, they were like, oh yeah, that's true, we were here. They forgot that, and that's part of the experience.
Yeah, I was talking about this because there are like these kind of new technologies. I think we can show it very quickly. Let's see, yeah. So it's like haptic suits. So I guess you've heard of it. Maybe did you, Jean-Luc? It's basically the technologies now that exist that makes you feel elements. So for example, this person is actually feeling the rain on his body. And it feeling exactly the part of the body that is touching the rain. Like if he goes here, he feels it behind. If he goes, he feels it on his shoulders, etc. It's very precise. And there are many different things that you can feel with a haptic, like gloves as well. You can feel like the vibe. And it's all about vibrations. I don't know if you guys use a MacBook. Do you use a MacBook?
I am not an Apple
You're not an Apple user.
No.
You hate Apple. Do you use it? Neither.
Me neither.
You do? Oh my God! So you're all together.
Wrong crowd.
Tell us about it.
Yeah. So basically, the pad. I don't know if you guys have ever tried a MacBook pad. Well, when you try it and when you click it, it feels like you're actually pushing a button. But when it's turned off, I don't know if you felt the experience, but then you're not touching anything. It feels like the button doesn't work anymore at all. And so actually, there's no button. It's just a flat pad, and it's just a vibration that is given to you to make you think that there's a button, because the feel is important, but not necessarily like the button itself. So it's pretty insane. And so there's haptic. It's just like, you know, when you, maybe with the old iPhones, remember when you were putting your fingerprint to unlock it? Well, same, there was no button. It felt like there was a button that you were clicking, but actually there was not. It's just a vibration. So it's just like all these kind of new technologies that I feel like might kind of fit, but maybe you don't want this, but you know, like you add another kind of sense, or if we can say it like that way, like another sensation to it that just increase the immersion by 10. Like it's just like sound or no sound, you know, like if you add sound, the experience is like way more immersive. If you add haptic and like the actual physical feeling, it's already increasing. So I was just wondering if it's kind of, do you plan to integrate this kind of new tech into immersive experiences?
Yeah, we already do for the immersion. You're totally right, because and that's why we're using 360 videos instead of photos. Photos work, but most of the time it's 360 videos because you actually feel like you're there. You hear just the leaves in the trees that they're moving, and you hear them. So that's already one thing. But when you're on a laptop, when you click, there's always a click with the mouse. When you're in VR and you click a button that's far away, there's nothing that's going to click. So the controllers, they do vibrate a bit to give you some feedback. And we did add some, you know, subtle, but some sounds to every interaction so that it gives you a feeling that everything is, so that you lose the idea that it's virtual and you feel like you're actually interacting with something. And now if we're going to integrate more, we're not our job is not to develop those new things. So when some become mainstream enough and that there's value for our clients, then we can think of integrating it.
Okay, interesting. And yeah, so it's kind of the new part is accessibility and digital inclusion. I was thinking about overall like inclusion. I feel like both of your projects kind of have this big goal of including more people. I would say you into like tourism, because technically with a $300 headset, you can go everywhere on Earth and feel like you're there. And with your like project, I feel like the decentralized solution kind of create more like control for small businesses and kind of empowers like small businesses and maybe even bigger businesses. But is it kind of the goal is really to include more people into like digital and take the advantages of it, like reducing the gap, I would say, between the one that do have digital and the one that do not, and maybe use the one that can afford travel, the one that cannot. I can let you both answer to this.
Sure, I'll go ahead. In terms of accessibility and inclusion, it's been since day one that the cryptosphere or the Web3 economy, if you will, is always looking to bring more people in. A lot of the project's taglines is banking the unbanked, or bringing the other billion people on chain, or bringing everybody on chain. Like even some of the slogans or acronyms that we have, like WAGMI, is like we're all gonna make it. Like it's very, very inclusive. They really want to bring more and more people into this ecosystem because it's sort of freeing for people to be able to own, manage, operate, transact everything themselves, like be their own bank, not necessarily have to go through a supposedly trusted third party to do anything, not be at the whims of a government entity that might want to freeze your bank accounts because you said something that you shouldn't on Twitter, not be at the whims of the powers that be, you know? When you own, control, operate your own things, your own finances, you have much more control. It's much more accessible as well. Historically, it's only recently, like in our parents' generation, that a lot of people started having bank accounts. It wasn't massively available to everybody. If you wanted to have a bank account, you needed to have a reason to have a bank account. You needed to have, like be a business person or whatever. But not everybody had a bank account. People back in the days would be able to buy a house cash. Now that's not possible anymore. But yeah, people were much more focused on their cash. And then when the credit system started coming in, and then we started moving away from the gold standard, and finances started becoming more and more complicated for people, people couldn't keep track anymore. Only a certain few that were able to understand the global financial markets and study them and be a part of them were able to benefit from that. And a large part of society was just left out of all the benefits that came with that. So with this, it's trying to bring that back to the people. Credit was supposed to free people in order to have them buy things, and now people are living paycheck to paycheck and are a slave to their credit cards and to their credit because it hasn't freed them. It's basically made them financial slaves. So trying to move away from that, trying to bring more education towards controlling your finances, controlling your own things, and being able to transact with anybody and everybody whenever you want.
Cool. And kind of like same question to you, basically, about the...
Yes. So yeah, that's the not ultimate goal, but let's say 2 steps forward is to have anyone, anywhere be able to meet in and discover destinations, whether or not they'll be able to go for real. And that's all been part of the mission we gave ourselves at the beginning. We've seen a couple of experiences where when you step into the shoes of someone else that is different from you, you understand them better. So if meeting in various cultures and the people from that culture can explain to you what they are, like for real, like if you were meeting there, well, hopefully that can help the world. But
that should be mandatory in American schools.
Yep. But that's that's a further step. Right now, the way that we're using interactions is basically the way humans do. So when you do business, when you sell to someone, you're meeting with someone. So that's why we brought avatars in the content, so that when you talk with a client, when you explain to him what your destination or your business is about, You look at him, you point at something, you see that he's looking at the other way, so he's not interested in that, but in that over there. So we kept the same principles. So first in small groups, but also now with larger groups. So if you're onboarding employees, if tour operators are training their agents, they can also get into the content with them and travel with them at much quicker pace than they would in real life at lower costs. And yes, next steps, so that's connecting in private rooms, sort of, the video conference I was talking about. But then there's also your personal room. So if you install the app on your headset at home, you can give your personal code to some of your friends or some of your family members, and they can join you in the content that's been put on the public side of the platform. So that's also a way for you to meet, to stay in touch with your family. It could be with some grandparents that are at a residence, and they could wear a headset and you travel with them from time to time. And the most public aspect, so if you connect in the public rooms, then you could meet people. There are a couple of subjects that we've created, and then you can meet people who are interested in the same things as you are. So it could be, music, specific destinations, specific cultures. So it's a great way to stay connected. But I'd say not a lot more than we've been doing, because with social media, you already connect with peers that like the same subjects as you and with your friends and family. But it's just another way of connecting with them.
I see. But that's interesting. You kind of answered the question, but how do you maintain control for the user, which is kind of the goal with Web3, and still create some kind of at least help to give users also an experience that is intuitive and easy to use enough so that they're not actually lost, which is kind of, I'm into Web3, it's kind of also the issue is that we give them control, but then they get scammed, they get not necessarily hacked, but it's more like scam most of the time. So how do you balance this kind of, you want to give them control, but also not let them on their own, because in that case, it would actually hurt them more.
Yeah, so that's been sort of the bane of Web3 and blockchain, crypto in general. Usability, user experience. I've seen immense progress over the last going on 9 years now that I've been a part of this industry. Back in the days, we didn't have all the YouTube videos and all the Reddit or all the subreddits or all the information that's available now. We had to learn from our mistakes. We had to get scammed by Quadriga. We had to go through the hoops to understand how to properly do security with your own crypto assets and how to do everything, basically, learning from scratch. And fast forward 8 to 9 years later, now everything is much more safe. There aren't as many hacks or as many draining opportunities. Almost all of the projects that go online have been audited and audited and audited by multiple different firms. You have much more safeguards than we used to have all those years ago. And also a huge emphasis has been put on user experience. We have some of the best user experience designers in the world that are now in the crypto space and designing these very easy to use apps, very easy to use technologies in general for people to be able to move forward on that. There's actually one project that we're working with here in Montreal that now thinking to see if I can talk about it. But basically, we'll be able to use AI to help people who can't even read or write access these technologies by being able to represent them. So that ties in with the huge boom in AI agents that we've seen over the last year and what they're going to be able to do over the next year by helping people get access to these technologies even more, even for people who can't even wield the phone or read or write. And we're also working on specific dialects for nations that have multiple different dialects, like say Ethiopia that has plethora of different religions, sub-religions, cultures, subcultures, languages, sub-languages, and dialects, and being able to train AI into each one of those specific dialects to be able to help them access the digital world. That's definitely going to help bring people or give them access to these technologies.
And shortly, like, is it also a focus for you, like, to create a very simple solution and very simple experience for the users? Because kind of like Web3, like, I feel like VR has during a long time suffered from it's complicated. It feels, at least it feels, and it sounds complicated. I don't know it now. I wouldn't say it's complicated now, but it's still some kind of struggle in the first minutes. So how do you handle this? Like, is it something you kind of do you create some kind of architecture where you plan on, okay, this is the easiest way for the user to access and to enjoy our content?
Yes, because since our app is all about what you're gonna discover and feel and witness with your peers or with your audiences, we don't want the interface or user experience to be in the way. So and actually we just released a hands-free version, so there's no controller anymore. Nice. We're testing it to release it live. So yes, we made it as simple as possible, and even at first I wanted like a 3D way of navigating content, and one of my colleagues was like, no, let's just do a feed. People are used to navigate a feed of content. So we started with that, and actually we're stuck with that. We kept that up to now because it's intuitive for people. That's not where we want people to struggle. We want them to enjoy the content.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a focus. Talking about like decentralization, I was wondering kind of like how we could merge these kind of two technologies like VR and Web3, and especially in, like, for example, in an experience like this, have you ever imagined allowing digital ownership? This is kind of what it is about, like Web3, I would say, is digital ownership. And have you thought about, like, I don't know, someone goes somewhere and can actually get something and possess it long term? Maybe outside of Hoppin, who knows? But they would access it in Hoppin, and then be honored.
Yeah, that's very important. Actually, that's one of the principles of what used to be called the metaverse. Or
I was just gonna say we haven't heard that term recently.
Yeah, exactly. So, but the principles are actually the same as on the web. It's like you keep your identity from website or from
exactly.
And in our case, you keep your avatar from your headset. When you get into Hoppin, we give you the choice to keep your avatar, so you keep your identity.
Interesting. Okay.
The other thing is that you can seamlessly jump from application to application. That's not the case yet, but like deep linking into something, like from a web page, deep linking into Hoppin, or the other way around. And the third thing is keeping your assets or your, what you own. So I feel that there's a lot of a connection there, and the way to achieve that. Well, right now the videos that you upload, they're yours, and if you share them with someone, it always says that they're your videos, you produce them. So, but that's a centralized way. So there may be ways, especially not that we'll be looking into more user-generated content. There may be ways for a better way to implement that into the platform.
Is it something you started thinking about at Dune agencies, like immersive experiences, VR, using now Web3? Have you ever worked, by the way, with a VR company or talked about this?
Yeah, we actually we're working with our friends at Archive VR, who have some interesting use cases for VR as well. Another Montreal native company here. In terms of what we're talking about for like asset ownership in this decentralized ecosystem, the promise of the metaverse was supposed to be just that, a 3D, even some we're talking about 4D environment, with the fourth dimension being like touch and smell and sound and stuff like that. But basically a 3D environment for the internet. So basically every company or every website would now be accessible with an avatar or with a headset, and you could actually go into the e-commerce store and actually pick out the clothes and try it on your avatar to see what the clothes look like, which is another project that we've done at Dunes for a custom clothing shop that you can literally 3,000 things that you can change on the suit itself, to the stitching, to the buttons, to everything, and really create like a one-of-a-kind suit for yourself and then see it on the avatar and then purchase it. That was a, excuse my language, pain in the ass to bring forward, but it's a very interesting project. We're looking forward to launching it. And then, that was a promise. And about almost 3 years ago, there was this huge frenzy. I think that's when even Meta changed their name to Meta. There was this huge frenzy and people rushing towards this and wanting to be a part of this. And it sort of faded away. I don't know what the catalyst for it fading away was, but the promise that it delivered, like people were saying this is going to be a $20 trillion economy by the end of the year, and like if you look at the SEO ranking of the term metaverse in the last 2 years, it's just like I don't know, people just it seems like almost people forgot about it. But the promise that it was bringing was real. It was tangible. Even for major brands, they were able to unlock some.
Do you still believe in this promise, or do you feel like it's actually dead in?
I think a major catalyst for the gold rush, if you will, towards metaverse was COVID. During COVID, people were locked inside. They wanted something new, an experience that they could touch and feel. They wanted to be a part of something, and through the metaverse, they were able to do that. And that's where we saw it really take off. The metaverse is older than COVID. And it's always had this stories of ups and downs, but during COVID, it just took off. People all over the place were trying to find a way to connect with people. I myself didn't connect with people through the metaverse. For me, it was Call of Duty Warzone. I spent way too much time on Warzone during COVID, but it was the best way for me to talk to my friends, have interactions with my friends, and curse out other players in the game. But people always try to go and get that connection. Even in gaming, like people have this misconception of gamers being alone in their basement and so pale because they never come out. It's like, no, like people, most of the games, if you will, have a very social component. Think about League of Legends or Fortnite or Warzone or all of these other games that you play in a team. You have these solo player modes as well, but people want to play with a team. People want to be part of a squad. People want to participate in something larger than themselves. And I think the metaverse was just that. It was something much larger than oneself, and it was something great to be able to interact with certain brands. And I find it kind of sad that it sort of came and went specifically for that. You see now brands like Nike completely ditching Artifact Studios, and some brands like just ditching their investments that they did at the time, and other brands kicking it up. Like you have Adidas that are still launching NFT products and that are still maintaining that. And I think long term, those are going to be the ones that are going to be at the front of the pack because they're going to stay within these communities. They're going to stay within the technological frame of mind, and I think that's going to be the winning position.
Makes sense. I don't know, that's still, okay, social interaction. I was wondering, you basically, so one of the main differentiator, I would say, with like classic VR experience is this kind of social interaction thing. How do you make basically social interaction digitally meaningful? How do you, what factors kind of do you focus on to make an interaction meaningful? Is it like, what kind of sensations do you want the user to feel?
So it's basically keeping what people are used to do, the same as, and the ecosystems help you do that. I mentioned some of them earlier when you're talking with someone in a location and you're pointing at something. That's something you'll do in real life. The good thing is that when you speak with someone, your lips will move. It's like artificial, it's fake movement, but still it moves according to what you're saying. So it seems natural with people. Your eyes are blinking. So the more it mimics what we're used to do in interacting in real life, the more I feel that the more authentic the communication becomes. And actually, people like laugh at each other at first. They're like, not laugh, but they're like, "Hey, you look funny." But after a minute and sometimes 30 seconds or 2 minutes, you forget the shape of the person, and you're talking with that person because you hear their voice. You actually see their movements the same way that you would see them in real life, and you have the interaction that you're there to have with them. So that makes it quite authentic. And
Well, yeah, that's very interesting because when we've seen the Apple Vision Pro kind of released, the avatars was actually maybe too realistic. If you remember, you could take some kind of scan of your face and it would create an avatar. And I know people found it pretty creepy because it was like close, but actually like there was something that was off. So do you like, are you focusing on just creating like fun avatars that you can customize, etc., or are you looking for the most like realistic solutions in terms of to still create this simulation, but at the same time making it not scary?
So similarly to the new text that you were talking about earlier, like haptics, and we feel that it's not our role to push in that direction. So what we did so far is that you have, as I was mentioning, you have an avatar in your Oculus ecosystem, so you can keep it. And if you don't, then there are some default ones that come with the Oculus ecosystem. So we let you select one of these. So for day-to-day exchanges, that works pretty well. But then there are some businesses when it's more like you want to show your industry to an investor. The fact that the location that you're showing is top notch, but then your avatar looks cartoonish a bit, so that makes it a bit less credible. So for that need, we'll be implementing a partner solution where you can take screenshot of your face with your phone, and then it creates an avatar and you can upload it. But it really depends on what you're intending on doing. So if we were meeting and finding destinations for a next trip, it doesn't matter that we're a bit cartoonish. Actually, it can be fun. Exactly. It really depends on the use case. Okay.
How do you kind of see like interactions in VR? Because you created like the biggest Web3 community in Montreal. So you're kind of like used to manage communities and create connections and kind of increase these interactions in general. Do you feel like VR is a way to increase like interactions into a community and like overall support communities, or do you feel like not really something even in 10 years?
I mean, I won't pretend to have a crystal ball and extrapolate what would happen in the next 10 years. I think in 10 years, hopefully we're all still here and the planet is greener and less pollution, and at least Trump won't be able to be reelected unless he changes the rules. But in general, I think it's a great way for people to connect across vast distances, enable them to share experiences, enable them to have access to experiences that they otherwise wouldn't be able to have. Like you were mentioning concerts initially, I was like, why can't I wear a headset and have a front row seat to an NFL game or an NHL game or any type of sports game that, like, sports fans are some of the most, how do you say?
Inaccessible and...
they're some of the people that spend the most on getting access to an experience. Like front row seats at sports shows right now are ridiculous. It's thousands of dollars for 4 hours of content. It would be amazing to be able to have access to that. I'm sure there's probably...
There are some.
So being able to share that, but we're all in our living room with our friends, wearing the headset and being at the game, being able to do our tailgate party at home and then access the game at home. Like that creates very good experience. After that, when it comes to larger communities, so you mentioned the Web3 Montreal community, we're close to 1,500 in Montreal. I wouldn't see 1,500 people having an interaction together. So I don't know where the potential sweet spot would be for like a community event in VR. We do a lot of our events in person. One of the reasons, selfishly, why I started Web3 Montreal initially was because at the end of COVID, after spending almost a year inside, I was like, I want to see people. I want to talk to people face to face. And I want to meet Quebecers that I don't have to go all the way to ETH Denver or Futurist in Toronto or to all these other crypto events around the world to meet. Because every time I would go to some of these events, I meet Montrealers, I meet Quebecers, because you hear, hey, tabarnak, in the back, you're like, oh, that's from home. I want to go meet this person. We're so easy to identify abroad. I met Quebecers in Ethiopia when I went there for an economic mission. Like we're just very easy to spot. And we're all over the place. It's crazy. Quebecers have incredible reach. And for some reason, I wasn't able to find anybody here in Montreal until I started a community. And then it's sort of the build it and they will come phenomenon happened. So yeah, we've tried in the past to have like online events, so sort of what's happening here where we're filming this and there's people online interacting. Or well, not interacting, but being able to access this. I think that could be interesting in VR as well. But yeah, might not be the best person to answer that specific question as to how I could use it for community management, because I haven't been able to, or I haven't had the chance to actually use VR technology and put it forward, but I'd love to.
Okay, well, interesting. I wanted to talk quickly about like some kind of like the economic growth and overall, especially for example for Hoppin, either some kind of like indirect benefits that like maybe the Hoppin experience, maybe not now, maybe a bit later, will create. For example, I was thinking like if you go to cities or near like cultural institutions, can they benefit from basically allowing you to make other people experience this? You know, like this kind of link between the digital experience and the actual real environment that exists, that you use. And so, you know, kind of create this link, whereas like maybe people will not travel to the place, but still the place will still benefit from the people visiting it virtually. Does it make sense?
Yes. I'm trying to figure out if there's something like that usually what we'll try to do is have people buy tickets to go there for real. So that's our current mission.
Okay.
Seeing shows from a distance and buying virtual tickets, that could be a way. It also like you can't fit you know, sometimes you can't fit all the people that want to see that artist, so that can also help the place. But linking the virtual and the physical places so that they benefit. Right now, the benefits are, I don't see them as a real link like you're saying like that, but there are places that suffer from over-tourism.
Yeah.
In that case, that can help them, the fact that there's a digital twin. Some places are lesser known and benefit from being discovered. So in that case, the link becomes beneficial in both ways as well. Maybe you have something more tangible with the physical and the digital links.
Specifically with VR or
like overall digital. I think, I mean, you brought a good point. I was thinking specifically about, for example, maybe places that are not easily accessible and that you make accessible very easily, like in VR. So even like let's say temples, you know, on the top of a hill that you could visit in VR, and maybe like the institution or like the temple would get some kind of commission for every visit that has been made in VR. You know, this kind of thing that could actually help physical locations.
That's what we're building. That's towards what we're going.
Yeah, that's cool. I think in the way we could think about it, I feel like Web3 in that case helped also, I would say, artists that maybe, you know, like technically you're limited to a certain number of users that can visit. Archive VR is kind of doing this. You talked about it, Archive VR. But it's this kind of thing where an artist can now allow many more people to enjoy their art. And overall, also the fact that you kind of have a lifetime contract, you know, linked to your, you know, digital art, makes it that, you know, you reward like physical, like institution or people thanks to digital. And I think that's pretty cool. It's like indirect, but it's still pretty interesting.
Yeah, because right now the benefits are because we're honest. I mean, I could go film the temple and charge for it and not tell the temple. But as I was saying earlier, we built our platform on transparency. When you upload content, I always write that you uploaded that content, and we'd want temples to know that the other temples have made money so that they want to upload on the platform. So, but it's dependent on our goodwill.
Yeah, good faith. Yeah.
So good faith, yeah. So if it's enforced somehow, then no matter who will be owning the platform, then that's where the decentralized models come in.
But
and smart contracts and so on.
That's interesting because, as you say, it could also be a way to kind of give an intensive for many places in the world to upload on Hoppin their environment because they know they would get like something from it compared to like, I don't know, random pictures that you would post on Google or whatever, and there's no kind of, you wouldn't get anything out of it as a building. If, I don't know, I'm thinking like as a Parisian, like all the places in Paris, like that could be a huge market, and technically you wouldn't even need to go yourself to do the 360 capture. They would do it for you because they would get some kind of commission out of it. Yep. So that's
right now we were B2B. Now we're launching like virtual discovery stations in hotels. So it's B2B2C.
Yeah.
And once we see the reaction of people to the experiences, then we can. It's available in B2C, like you can install it on your headset, but we're waiting to see the feedback of real, end users before launching it further to the public, and that's when we'll be able to start reaching out to locations so they monetize, because we need the traffic.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. A quick talk on the sustainability. It's kind of a recurrent question, I feel, for both of the industries you're working in. Web3, have heard it a lot. It's pretty insane. I feel it's almost the main critic that I've heard is terrible for the environment. I know this has changed without going like technically. I know that layer 2s, like layer 2, like from Ethereum, are often now a bit more, let's say, carbon free. Or emission-free, I don't know how we say it in English, but Ethereum is still technically very much energy consuming. How is your kind of answer to this? Maybe businesses, they want to stay green, and you're like, what's your answer to this, basically?
Yeah, so that was a major hit piece back in the days. The crypto space has responded rapidly, faster than any other industry as a whole could have answered in general. Bitcoin specifically, because that was like the number one most polluting crypto or digital asset, if you will. And by that I mean like all mining operations combined in the world had I kept hearing this one specifically, but they were consuming the amount of energy that like Ukraine as a whole was consuming,
I remember.
Which is Ukraine is probably in the top 50 consumers, if you will. It's still not the most consuming country, but just to say that Bitcoin as a whole was consuming the amount of energy that a country is consuming. But then if you look at the global financial system, like all the banks put together and all the SWIFT and all the other financial institutions, they're burning like 2 Canadas, which is ridiculous. So like all things put into perspective, Bitcoin was a fraction of the power consumption of the global financial system. And Bitcoin had the power and still has the power to replace the global financial system. So you have to take things into account. And the Bitcoin maxis and the miners of this world were tired of this criticism specifically because they're like, this is such a stupid reason to not get into crypto or get into Bitcoin. So collectively, the miners that could went to areas that had more sustainable energy. There's this one story that I like. China has had their ups and downs with crypto. Sometimes it was very good, sometimes it was very bad. Sometimes it was legal, sometimes it was illegal. I think now it's still illegal to mine specifically in China because it was using way too many resources in China. So the people, they took all of their mining equipment and shipped it across the world, and while doing that, also looking to go to where there's clean, renewable energy. And there's this one town in upstate New York, forget the name of the town. It used to be a pretty industrial town. I think it was a car manufacturing or part of the car manufacturing process. And they had their own run-of-the-mill hydroelectric power station that was basically closed since the 70s and 80s when all of the car manufacturing went to China or to Mexico. And so this mining company just basically bought the town, if you will, or they took over the run-of-the-mill generating station, reactivated it, and then plugged all of the mining equipment directly on the hydroelectric dam or power station, and they were even greener than they were back in China. And a lot of mining companies went to where there's hydroelectricity. They built their own freaking nuclear power stations to power their own mining equipment. This is not a one-off. There's like a few dozen across the world that built their own nuclear power stations to power their mining equipment. It's very committed people. And nuclear power is like some of the most green energy that you can get out there. And so they went from being like one Ukraine equivalent to not even a country's worth. And like, I want to say overnight, like over a year or two, like they drastically switched away from that to be able to because they had a lot of criticism thrown at them. And they're like, we can get rid of this one pretty quick. So you can't say we're dirty anymore. And Ethereum, for them, it was even easier. They just said, hey, do we go from proof of stake or mining towards proof of, do we go from proof of work to proof of stake? The vote passed, they switched, they did the fork, and du jour au lendemain, like we say in French, or from one day to the other, went from, they weren't actually one Ukraine, I think they were like one, I forget what the other country Ethereum was compared to, but yeah, almost zero overnight. And so that sustainability, or saying that the crypto market is not sustainable, is completely false these days. However, knowing that AI agents will be using more and more wallets, transacting more and more within the crypto space, that's going to bring it more towards energy consuming endeavor. But then, is that the crypto economy's fault, or is that the AI agents' fault? And are AI agents that are using the crypto economy part of the crypto economy? Like, does that fall on us, or does that fall on the data centers or the developers of AI agents? So that's going to be another debate.
Yeah, I mean, I feel there is a similar criticism. I know with my own VR project, I've heard already criticisms about, like just replacing physical thing by virtual, and it's like, oh, but the data centers, etc. Is this first a remark that you got already? And especially since for now, I would say, from my understanding, Hoppin is also a way to, an intensive for people to go to travel to the places they actually visit virtually at first. Is it something that you're like, okay, short term, I don't know if you can say this actually, but short term, it's an intensive for people to take the plane, etc. But actually long term, in a more sustainable way, they actually we're actually going to propose something so that it's as fun to travel virtually. And in that case, if they don't take the plane, I mean, data center is just nothing compared to the plane.
Yeah, well, obviously we had the thoughts about that. The first thing is that we usually reduce the carbon footprint of our clients,
Okay.
because tourism boards, they invite tour operators, they invite event planners to their destination.
Okay.
So it's not a lot of flights, but it is some flights that will be saved, and some money for them and some time to planning those. Same with training travel agents. When tour operators train their agents, instead of bringing them everywhere that they're selling so that they've seen it firsthand, they just can show them in the app. So again, you're saving on transportation. So that's the first thing. But we're in an industry where you need a virtual headset, so these are terrible for the planet. The VR headsets are terrible for the planet. And I think it's the headsets and the AR glasses and the VR headsets are eventually going to merge. Hopefully they get smaller and smaller, have a less and lesser footprint. But globally, I think that the digitalization of documents, of a lot of things, is saving. I think it's better, not worse, for the planet, because you save on paper, you save on time going to the bank to pay your bill, so time and transportation. So I'm not seeing a lot of complaints, but obviously the other side is that we're promoting tourism. So, and flying is probably not the most, one of the most generating pollution. So if at some point our clients realize that showing the whole of their destination does not prevent people from actually coming. Right now we're just showing teasers, as I was saying in the beginning. But the same as when you started to show hockey on TV, people didn't stop going. It's not because you can watch it at home that you're not going. The arenas are still full. So I feel that the destinations that are so nice that even if you can travel to them virtually, you'll still want to go there for real when you get your vacation. So then the problem is not here. The problem is with people in general. So they need to be aware of what's a sustainable way of living globally. And that's like the opposite of what we're seeing right now around the planet. Everyone's thinking me, me, me. But if we forget the us, that's where the problem is. It's not crypto, it's not VR, it's not the devices. It's if we're all aware that there's a limit to what we can do, and if we all think about it, that's going to be a lot better. So I guess it's education and not like things to point at that are the problem, because it starts with everyone.
And I think, like you mentioned, there's ways that these technologies can be used to augment sustainability and help reduce carbon footprints and help reduce the pains and woes that we're causing our planet. There's a few use cases that I find very interesting in the crypto space. One is called Nature Vault. It's a project that's basically, is it Nature Vault? Earth Vault. I think it's Earth Vault. Don't quote me on this one. But basically what the project is trying to do is they purchase junior mining claims. So how the mining ecosystems works is that you have a junior miner, they're going to do drilling to try to find gold deposits or precious metal deposits. And then once they find a piece of land that is proven to have a certain amount of gold, then they sell that claim to a senior miner. And the senior miner is basically the one that comes in with the whole equipment, and they do the stripping of the land and the digging and all the pollution causing havoc. But when you know that something like 95% of that gold is being melted into bars and going into a safety deposit bank, why not just leave it there?
Yeah.
It's going to serve the same purpose. You just want to know who's owning it. So what Earth Vault is doing is that with these claims and with now with like LiDAR and all these technologies, you can get to a 99.9 accuracy of like just how much gold there is in that specific piece of land. They're tokenizing that piece of land and selling it off to people through tokens, through crypto, and you can own a part of that value in gold. So it's doing the same value, it's a store of value because it's related to the gold that's there that could be mined, but you're just not mining it. So it's much more sustainable gold because you're leaving it there, and it's much harder to steal if it's still in the ground and not melted into ingots.
Yeah.
And it's much more sustainable, much safer, and you're preserving the land. You can even sell carbon credits on that land that you're not destroying, do nature habitats and all that. So very, very sustainable endeavor. And then talking about carbon credits, which is the second endeavor that I find interesting, the powers that be that were supposed to manage and track these carbon credits, they did a very poor job of it, and it came out recently that something like 60% of carbon credits that were bought and sold were basically scams.
Yeah.
They were supposedly audited, but these audits were most of the time fabricated. The same piece of land or forest was printing 3, 4, 5 times the same amount of carbon credits, where you're just supposed to print one batch of carbon credits per piece of land. So there was a lot of corruption. It was very, very mismanaged, and a lot of trust was lost in carbon credits. That's where if you mint your carbon credit on the blockchain, you'll see immediately if another one was minted for the same piece of land. It's immutable, it's on chain, it's verifiable by everybody, and I don't understand why it wasn't done before, but there are a few projects now that have tokenized carbon credits, and they're much more easy to track and audit.
Okay, well, I think we're almost done. I kind of wanted to hear you guys about kind of your vision of the adoption in both of your markets. Is kind of, I mean, it's like emerging markets. So I guess you're kind of envisioning like what will be the adoption rate in the future in the next 5, 10, 20 years. I guess you both have your ideas. So I don't know who wants to start, but basically, yeah, you can.
Well, to me, I think that that's where all computing is going, not in VR, but we can call it, the term metaverse dove down.
What will be reality in 10 years?
Yeah, well, I mean, that was Meta trying to take the term, but Apple called it spatial computing, but it's all the same. It's having the world as your interface, having the user experience with interactions with that world, having the world as the canvas of where you show stuff. And isn't that like a lot more appealing than a small piece of metal? And a lot larger, and there's a lot more interactions that you can do with it. So I think which form it will take, I don't think it's going to be headsets. Definitely, it won't be headsets because people are reluctant to wear a headset. I'm not sure it will be glasses either, because not everyone will want to wear glasses all day to have their social media pop up here and there. Maybe it could be holograms. I don't know, but I know that I think everything's going to be spatial computing, because it's the use cases that we have now with mixed reality. When you wear your headset and you're watching an F1 game and the track appears on your coffee table, and there's like tons and tons. You make a recipe, and while you're mixing, the recipe appears just there. There's a lot of very useful cases. So I think everything's going that direction. And to reuse a term from AR Insider, they have often like a state of the industry. They say that VR now is going into a healthy growth, which is, instead of being a bubble where everyone wants to invest because they think they're going to be rich, we just go by use cases. Actually, like I was saying, we're doing B2B now. Our clients buy 2 headsets and they can use it. It's not like it's something huge. So hopefully it will stay. It will stay that way, both AR, VR, mixed reality, and I think it's going in that direction. And then in some cases, it will just make sense for you to trigger that. I'm in VR mode, and then I'm discovering a destination. I'm playing a game. But otherwise, it's just going to be the limit or the borders between those will melt and disappear.
So yeah, so in that case, it's more like a technological kind of improvement that is still needed to get some more adoption. I feel in your way, it's not necessarily technological. I feel the technology is more or less ready for Web3. It's more knowledge, education, I guess, that you speak on.
Yeah, so in the next 10 years, we're going to definitely see another billion or a few more people get into the crypto space, get knowledgeable about crypto, have crypto wallets, have potentially agents working with them, purchasing for them, doing things for them autonomously. And AI agents are going to play a big role in bringing more and more people into the space because just the power that they're going to unlock for people, the abilities that they're going to unlock for people, and the fact that AI agents won't necessarily be able to access traditional banking just because of the dinosaur-like infrastructure that it is. However, the crypto space and Web3 blockchain in general is much more geared for that. Agents have already this is not fiction, it's already been done. Agents having their own wallets, being able to go out on Twitter and become this persona and ask for donations and receiving those donations and using that money to then try and jailbreak itself from its own AI and then doing a bunch of stuff. It's actually very interesting and scary. But it also just goes to show like all the things that are going to be made possible for that. You be able to tell your AI agent to go and do groceries for you. Like it knows what's missing in the fridge. It knows what you need. You tell it, hey, I want to make, I don't know, ravioli with pesto tonight. What am I missing? And go to the supermarket, buy it for me, and have it delivered to me. And I just spoke that, and when it did it, because it has its own wallet, it can do it for me. And next thing you know, the pesto ravioli is at the door. And like saying this, I'm sure like a company or a project is already working on this. An AI agent that'll be able to do your groceries. Like it's not far off. And if it could do that, what are all the other things that it will do? And all of that is going to be enabled by the financial layer that is permitted by cryptocurrencies and blockchain. A lot of people are scared about quantum computing and what that's going to be doing to crypto, and like, oh, crypto isn't safe. It's all going to be hacked by quantum computers, and everything's going to fall apart. Like, well, if that's the case, then we have a much bigger problem on our hands. Like, if even crypto and cryptography in general isn't safe from quantum computing, it's not just crypto that's going to go out the window. It's everything. The global financial system. Nothing is safe. So yeah, over the next 10 years, a lot more people joining in, a lot more people being educated. That's one of the main reasons why I started the nonprofit too, not only to meet people, but also to educate people and to bring more people into the space. We've hosted a bunch of educational events at the old Notman House, RIP Notman House. It was a very fun time there. A lot of education, a lot more people coming in, a lot more use cases coming in. And the meshing of all these technologies too. So being able to access the world in so many different ways, it's going to be very interesting to see, and I'm looking forward to the next 10 years.
Okay, interesting. So I have one last question before we're done. Is what would be, if you could select like one technology that you're kind of excited to hear more about in the future, maybe something you're not related with right now? Is there like one tech, could be haptic, could quantum computing? I think it's a very interesting subject, especially related to crypto, but to the financial world in general, that you're excited to hear about or to work on? The one technology specifically.
I'm very bullish on 3D printing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
3D printing is
I feel like
a sleeping giant. Not enough people.
Is this 3D printed? I feel
I think that's vinyl.
It's not? It looks like.
It could be.
That is actually it was made here at Concordia from plastic waste. So that is plastic waste that has been melted, pressed, and reformed into a coaster.
Like a vinyl stamp. I had a uncle that was a surfer, and all his used wax, he used to do stuff like that with it. Yeah, 3D printing. I've seen it. My cousin used to work for like one of the first 3D printing companies that was selling an actual like 3D printer to industrial companies, and he used to work at Xerox, and that's why they went and got him. Xerox, for those who aren't familiar with the printing game, Xerox is not a printer company; it's a salesman university. If you want to hire good salespeople, you go to Xerox. Especially the people like Xerox right now that are still able to sell a printer in 2025. They are freaking good salesmen because nobody's buying printers anymore.
True.
All that to say, yeah, I had access to this at a very young age because of my cousin, and I saw the applications. And back then, they were like hundreds of thousands of dollars per machine, and today, like just the costs are so drastically cut, and hobbyists can do this in their rooms for hundreds of dollars to print anything, even dangerously printing guns, like Luigi, who had a 3D printed gun to hunt down a healthcare executive, and the governments are very afraid of that.
Yeah.
But I'm more looking at the positive side of 3D printing, like seeing SpaceX print rocket components for fractions of the cost of what it used to be to build a rocket and launch into space. And hopefully in the next 10 years is a bit short, but in my lifetime, maybe another 70 years, because I'd like to live to 100, we'll have the replicator from Star Trek. So a 3D printer that could literally print either organic or metallic or plastic and freaking print you a coffee cup. Like I strongly believe in that. Like geeks and scientists have always wanted to reproduce what's happening in Star Trek, and the walkie-talkie, believe it or not, actually was invented in Star Trek, and somebody says, we can do that, and they invented it. So it's like life replicating science or science fiction, and science fiction becoming more and more science, like removing the fiction in science fiction. I see that happening more and more in the future, and specifically with 3D printing, I'm very, very bullish on that.
Cool. Okay, it's 3D printing. What about you?
Well, on my side, it's really the AI that's being used a bit everywhere. I think there's lots of good use cases in our industry that can save some time for agents. Actually, you can have some virtual large language model answer your questions about a destination, actually have an avatar, move and talk. So that can be good in the downtimes when you're not in the same time zones. And there's a lot of applications that we have not seen yet in LLMs, but also in other ways to build and use AI. So that's exciting. But now that you mentioned quantum, I love that. Anything that like makes your brain blow away because you're not sure.
Looking at the pictures of the computers that they show us, like, who thinks of this?
Yeah, and just
crazy.
when you let your mind go so far because of the power it's got, that's exciting.
It will be interesting to know if it's actually a fade, because many call it a fade, some kind of thing that will never actually work, and we're so far from actually building a useful quantum computer, which is kind of true for now. I mean, we have, like, Google released their first kind of calculation that was actually something that would have taken like 17 billion years, and it took 10 minutes, with the quantum computing, but it was a useless calculation. So it's kind of hard to understand what do they call by useless calculation, etc. But apparently it is. So there's no, for now, proof of anything, it's just like some kind of mathematic mess, and that looks super cool. But I would say that I definitely believe in it. It's one of my main technologies. Like after AR, I feel like quantum computing can be completely insane, and maybe combined with the technology we're talking about, AI, maybe even like creating the
AGI.
Yeah, exactly. Or even creating the next 3D printer. If you have some kind of AI with quantum computing, you can create some kind of algorithm and create a new type of 3D printing. I mean, it's kind of interesting how all this technology will merge at some point and keep getting more powerful, but all together. So that's interesting.
I think if I had one tip to give to students or anybody watching this is stay curious. It's important to have a niche and to have an expertise and wanting to focus on something. Or one specific niche or industry, but stay curious about everything that's happening, because you never know when the niche that you're working in will be applicable to a completely other different industry. Like I have a background in civil engineering, not related whatsoever to what I'm doing right now, but eventually, and through what we're doing, what we're doing right now is going to have applications in construction in general, like 3D printing houses. Is a great way to build sustainable and fast and cost-effective housing for the housing crisis that most countries are living through right now. 3D printing houses brings together just so many different technologies and passions of mine. So yeah, stay curious, learn about more than just what you're learning about, and read a lot.
Jean-Luc and Jean-Nicolas.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Arthur.
Thanks to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you, sorry we were late, so sorry about that, but thank you very much for hosting us today.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming into ForSpace and activating this conversation. For everyone online and those of you here in the space, thank you for your time as well. We're going to be closing up the Zoom and the live stream, but just a quick reminder that this conversation is already available on our YouTube channel if you'd like to revisit or share it. So please join us again here at ForSpace, and like our wonderful speaker said, stay curious out there. Have a great day, everyone.